There will always be those who whisper when you walk in the room. They will roll their eyes when your light shines too bright. But child, don't you dare dim that light. Don't you dare lower your crown just because someone else feels small in your glow. Let me tell you something. When people try to bring you down, it's never because you're beneath them. It's because you're flying above their fear. So let them talk, let them doubt, let them throw stones, because stones can build walls or they can build thrones. And you, my dear, were never born to hide behind walls. You were born to rise. Your silence is your power, not your punishment. Too many people mistake silence for weakness. They think if you're not shouting back, you've surrendered. They think if you don't explain yourself, you're guilty, but they don't understand. Silence isn't always empty. Sometimes it's full of meaning that words could never carry. Silence doesn't mean you're broken. It means you've learned the art of control. It means you've reached a place where peace matters more than proving a point. It means you've outgrown the need to be understood by small minds. There's strength in silence that noise can never touch. Think about it. When a storm rages, it's loud, wild, and uncontrollable. But after the storm, there comes that deep, still calm. That's when nature is at its strongest, rebuilding, healing, restoring. That's what your silence does for you. It rebuilds you after the emotional storms people throw your way. It allows you to breathe when everyone else is choking on drama. It gives you space to see clearly what's worth fighting for and what's not. In daily life, silence saves more energy than arguments ever could. Imagine this. You're at work, and someone tries to provoke you, mocking your effort, undermining your talent, spreading half-truths behind your back. Your instinct may scream, fight back, prove them wrong. But the truth is, sometimes the best clapback is no clapback at all, because when you stay silent, you shift the power back to yourself. You make them wonder what you're thinking. You make them restless. You hold your dignity while they lose theirs. And in time, everyone sees who stood tall and who crumbled under their own noise. Silence teaches maturity. You don't have to respond to every rumor, every criticism, every cheap shot. You don't have to explain your worth to those committed to misunderstanding it. Because people who truly know you don't need an explanation. And those who don't will twist your words anyway. The next time someone questions your choices, look at them with calm eyes and say nothing. Let your results answer. Let your peace be your defense. Remember, a lion doesn't need to roar to prove it's the king. It's respected because of its presence, not its noise. Think about relationships too. Sometimes silence speaks louder than confrontation. When someone disrespects you, ignores your boundaries, or takes your love for granted, walking away quietly can shake them more than any argument ever could. Because silence in the right moment screams self-worth. It says, I don't need to fight for a place where I'm not valued. It says, I choose peace over chaos. It says, I respect myself enough to not lower my voice to match your noise. That kind of silence has an echo. And that echo changes hearts. In friendship, silence can be wisdom. There are times your friends or family may gossip about you or criticize your decisions. Instead of reacting out of anger, stay calm. Smile. Keep moving. Let time show them what your silence was protecting. Your focus, your purpose, your evolution. Because when you stop explaining yourself, you start elevating yourself. You stop being a character in someone else's story and become the author of your own. Even in moments of pain, silence holds sacred power. When you're hurt, betrayed, or misunderstood, you don't always need to announce your suffering. Sometimes the quiet moments you spend with yourself, the tears nobody sees, the deep breaths you take in the dark, are the ones that shape you the most. Those silent nights where you rebuild yourself from the ashes are the birthplace of your rebirth. And one day people will look at you glowing and wonder how you made it through. You won't have to tell them, your silence will. Silence also helps you listen to your own soul. The world is noisy, everyone shouting their opinions, everyone rushing to be heard. But when you fall silent, you start hearing the voice within you. That voice that says, you're doing enough. You are enough. Keep going. That voice is your guide, your truth. You can't hear it when you're always talking, always defending, always reacting. Silence reconnects you to your center. It gives you back the power others tried to steal. In a world obsessed with attention, silence is rebellion. When you choose not to respond, not to engage, not to explain, you break the chain of control. You stop feeding the negativity that feeds on your reaction. That's why silence is power, because it's not about weakness, it's about wisdom. It's about knowing when your words will fall on deaf ears and when your energy is better spent building, not battling. There will be times people call you cold, distant, or arrogant for not reacting. Let them. The same people who called you silent will one day call you successful. The same mouths that mocked your stillness will one day speak your name with respect, because silence doesn't mean you've given up. It means you've grown up. You've learned that not every fight deserves your fire. You've learned that the loudest person in the room isn't always the strongest. Sometimes it's the quiet one who knows their worth. So when life tests your patience, when people try to drag you into drama, when the noise around you gets too loud, don't shout back. Just smile. Stay still. Stay grounded. Your silence will speak volumes that their words never could. Because silence doesn't need applause, it doesn't need approval, it only needs truth, and the truth always echoes louder when spoken softly or not at all. And remember this, silence doesn't mean absence, it means presence. It means you've mastered the moment, not surrendered to it. It means you've chosen peace over performance, wisdom over reaction. It means you've decided that your energy is too sacred to waste on battles beneath you. They call you arrogant only when you stop being available. Isn't it strange how the same people who once praised your kindness suddenly question your character the moment you draw a line? The moment you stop picking up the phone, replying to every message, showing up for every crisis? They label you as changed. But here's the truth. They don't want to admit you didn't become arrogant, you became aware. You realized that being constantly available was draining your soul. You realize that not everyone who calls you friend deserves your presence. You realize that peace feels better than pleasing everyone. People love you most when they can reach you anytime. When you're the one who always says yes, who always listens, who always saves the day, they love that version of you because it benefits them. But the moment you start saying no, they get uncomfortable. They call you selfish because they can't use you anymore. They call you proud because they can't control you anymore. And that's the moment you must understand. Their discomfort is not your arrogance, it's your evolution. Think about your daily life, when you were available to everyone, when you dropped everything to help others. Who was there when you needed help? When you cried in silence, who showed up uninvited? When you felt empty after pouring into others, who filled your cup? Most times no one. And that's where awareness begins. When you realize that constant availability doesn't build respect, it builds dependency, and dependency drains love faster than distance ever could. You are not meant to be everyone's solution. You are not a 24-hour service line for people who only remember you when they're in need. You are a human being with dreams, with limits, with emotions that deserve rest. So when you stop showing up for people who took you for granted, they call you arrogant, not because you are, but because your boundaries remind them of their entitlement. You see this everywhere. The employee who always worked overtime, never complained, always covered for others. The moment they start leaving on time, suddenly the whispers begin, oh, they've changed. No, they haven't changed. They've woken up. They've realized that loyalty doesn't mean losing yourself. Or the woman who always listened to everyone's problems, gave advice, comforted hearts. The moment she says, I can't talk right now, I need peace, they call her distant, cold, even arrogant. But that's not arrogance. That's self-respect speaking. And then there's the friend who always said yes to every outing, every favor, every call, until one day they decided to focus on their goals, their growth, their time. Suddenly the same people who once loved their company start murmuring, you've become so full of yourself, but what they really mean is, you've stopped being full of me. They're not angry because you changed. They're angry because they can no longer control your time. Understand this deeply. When you stop being available, you force people to meet you where you truly stand. You stop teaching them that your worth is in your convenience. You start teaching them that your time, your energy, your peace are sacred gifts, not free samples. The ones who truly care for you will respect your boundaries. The ones who only benefited from your availability will call you arrogant to manipulate you back into servitude. Sometimes the best way to expose who's genuine and who's not is to pull back your energy. Watch who stays when you're not constantly reachable. Watch who checks on you when you stop checking on them. You'll be surprised how quickly silence reveals loyalty, People's reactions to your boundaries are the clearest mirror of their intentions. If someone gets offended because you're taking care of yourself, they were never for you, they were only for your benefits. Let's be honest, society trains us to feel guilty for resting, for saying no, for choosing ourselves. But burnout is not a badge of honor. Sacrificing your sanity for people who don't appreciate it is not kindness, it's self-abandonment. When you stop living on everyone else's terms, they will call you names. Let them. They call you arrogant only because they can no longer access the version of you that neglected your own needs for theirs. Even in families, this happens. You set a boundary with relatives who constantly criticize or drain your peace, and they'll say, "You think you're better than us." But you're not thinking that at all. You're just protecting your peace. You've learned that love doesn't mean tolerance of disrespect. That's maturity, not arrogance. The world confuses peace with pride, confidence with ego, distance with disdain. But don't fall into their noise. You know your heart. You know your intentions. Every strong person has faced this shift. Every man or woman who decided to focus on purpose, success, or inner peace has been called arrogant at some point. Because your glow irritates those who thrive on your exhaustion. Your absence forces people to confront the emptiness you used to fill for them. And instead of growing, they complain that you've changed. But that's okay. Change was the point. You didn't come this far to stay at the level where everyone could reach you whenever they pleased. You came to rise, to evolve, to protect your peace like it's the last thing you own. So the next time someone calls you arrogant for setting boundaries, smile. You don't owe them your constant presence. You don't owe anyone an explanation for choosing yourself. Remember this. Being humble doesn't mean being available to everyone. It means being available to what truly matters. You can be kind and still say no. You can be loving and still protect your time. You can be generous and still have limits, because your energy is not infinite, your time is not endless, and your peace is priceless. And if people can't understand that, let them call you what they want. Your growth doesn't need their permission. Respond with grace, not rage. The true test of strength is not how loud you can shout, but how calm you can stay when the world tries to shake you. Anybody can react, but it takes a deeply grounded soul to respond. Rage is easy. Grace is mastery. Rage burns everything around you. Grace builds your character. Rage is the voice of the ego screaming to be heard. Grace is the voice of wisdom whispering. You don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. Life will constantly give you reasons to react. People will provoke you, disrespect you, misunderstand you. They'll twist your words, test your patience, and challenge your peace. And in those moments, your reaction becomes your reflection. When you choose rage, you give them control. But when you choose grace, you take it back. The real power is not in the punch, it's in the pause. That pause between what hurt you and how you respond determines the kind of person you are becoming. Think about it. When someone insults you or tries to humiliate you, what they're really doing is trying to pull you into their chaos. They want you to react, to lower yourself, to match their energy. But when you respond with grace, a calm smile, a steady silence, a quiet dignity, you break the cycle. You show them that you are untouchable, that your peace is not up for grabs. Grace doesn't mean you're weak, it means you're wise enough to protect your power. Take this daily example. At work, maybe your coworker takes credit for something you did. Instantly, your chest tightens, anger rises, and your mind screams, expose them now. But if you breathe, if you let the truth speak in its time, you'll find that grace has a longer reach than rage ever could. Because while rage may give you instant satisfaction, grace gives you lasting victory. People will eventually see the truth, and when they do, your silence will echo louder than their lies. That's grace, the art of winning without fighting. In relationships, responding with grace saves your peace. There are moments when your partner says something hurtful, not because they hate you, but because they're hurt themselves. If you respond with rage, the wound deepens. But if you respond with grace, if you choose to understand before you demand to be understood, you transform conflict into connection. Grace doesn't mean letting people walk over you. It means standing tall enough that you don't have to stomp anyone to be seen. Grace is restraint in motion. Imagine being stuck in traffic and someone cuts you off rudely, honking, cursing, throwing gestures. Rage would have you roll down the window, shout, maybe even chase them down. And what would that solve? But grace tells you breathe. Don't match chaos with chaos. Because in the grand picture of life, some battles are not worth your energy. You don't have to wrestle every fool that crosses your path. Sometimes peace is found in letting go of the need to prove anything. In friendships, grace means understanding that not everyone has your maturity. Some will betray you, some will ghost you, some will speak badly of you behind your back. Rage wants revenge. Grace wants release. Rage says they'll regret losing me. Grace says, I'm grateful I learned their truth. The difference, rage keeps you stuck in their story. Grace writes your next chapter. When you respond with grace, you teach people how to treat you, not through words but through energy. You show them that you can't be shaken by gossip, that your peace is your signature strength. Even in moments of deep pain, grace is your anchor. Maybe someone breaks your trust, someone you gave everything to. The first instinct is rage, to call them out, to make them feel what you felt. But grace is walking away with your dignity. Grace is saying, you can't destroy me because you never built me. Grace is smiling not because it didn't hurt, but because you refuse to let it turn you bitter. Grace keeps your heart clean when life gets dirty. Responding with grace also means mastering your emotions in the heat of confrontation. There are moments when you're being misunderstood, blamed for things you didn't do. Rage tells you to defend yourself loudly. Grace tells you to breathe and let truth reveal itself in silence. People may talk over you today, but in time the noise fades and grace stands tall, because time always sides with those who keep their composure when others lose theirs. In business, grace is the game changer. When competitors lie, when colleagues envy, when people try to discredit your success, grace makes you unshakable. You keep doing the work, you keep showing up, you keep letting excellence speak louder than gossip. That's grace. Quiet consistency that outlasts every attempt to break you. Rage reacts. Grace remains. Rage burns fast and fades. Grace endures and inspires. And in family, grace often means forgiveness. Sometimes the people you love most will hurt you the deepest. Rage wants to cut them off forever. Grace says, I can forgive, not for you, but for me. Forgiveness is not weakness. It's emotional intelligence at its highest level. It doesn't erase the pain, but it releases the poison. It frees you to move forward without carrying yesterday's fire into tomorrow's sunrise. Grace doesn't mean silence in the face of injustice. It means speaking truth with calm conviction. It's the difference between shouting and shining. It's knowing that dignity is not in the noise, but in the way you hold yourself when others lose control. Every time you choose grace over rage, you're teaching your spirit that peace is your real power. Grace doesn't always roar. Sometimes it stands still, and in that stillness it conquers everything rage could never touch. Turn pain into power. That's the secret that separates those who rise from those who remain broken. Pain is not your enemy, it's your awakening. It's the universe shaking you, whispering, you were never meant to stay small. Every time you are hurt, betrayed, rejected, or disappointed, life is handing you two choices. Let it crush you or let it carve you. The difference between victims and warriors is simple. One lets pain define them, the other lets it refine them. When life hits hard, most people focus on the wound. They replay the scene, the words, the betrayal over and over until the pain becomes their identity. But the truth is, pain was never meant to be your home. It's meant to be your classroom. It's there to teach you, to shape your soul, to reveal your strength, to push you toward a version of yourself that only hardship could awaken. Every scar you carry isn't proof of defeat. It's proof you survived something that tried to destroy you. Think about heartbreak. When someone walks away, your heart feels shattered, your world feels empty, and everything inside you screams, why me? But in time, if you stop chasing answers and start focusing on healing, you begin to see the beauty in that pain. You realize that heartbreak wasn't rejection, it was redirection. It pushed you back toward yourself. It forced you to learn how to love without losing your worth. You stopped begging to be chosen and started choosing yourself. That's how pain turns into power. When it teaches you that your value never depended on who stayed. Or take failure. Those moments when you tried your best, worked your hardest, and still fell short. The job you didn't get, the dream that didn't happen, the plan that fell apart. It hurts, it burns, it crushes your pride. But failure is never final unless you stop trying. Every successful person you admire was once standing exactly where you are, at the edge of defeat, holding shattered dreams in one hand and determination in the other. What separated them was the decision to turn the pain of failure into the fuel of focus. The pain of falling made them obsessed with rising. The rejection they faced made them hungry to prove life wrong. Pain is not punishment, it's preparation. The person you are today was shaped by the pain you thought you couldn't handle. Every sleepless night, every tear, every setback, it built muscles you can't see yet. When you go through something hard and refuse to let it break you, you evolve. You become someone wiser, calmer, stronger, softer, all at once. That's what makes pain powerful. It's both the fire that burns you and the light that guides you. In everyday life, you can see people who've mastered this. The single mother who works 2 jobs to raise her kids, she's turning pain into power every day. The student who was mocked for failing but still gets up to study again, that's power. The man who lost everything but started over from scratch, that's power. These people don't deny their pain, they transform it. They don't let life make them bitter, they let it make them unbreakable. There's a story in every scar. Some people hide their scars, ashamed of what they've been through. But those who understand life wear them with pride. Because every scar says, I survived. Pain teaches you empathy. It makes you humble. It opens your eyes to other people's struggles. Once you've been broken and healed yourself, you start handling others with gentleness because you know what it feels like to bleed silently. Pain softens the ego but strengthens the spirit. Sometimes the pain comes from people, betrayal, lies, disappointments from those you trusted. That kind of pain cuts the deepest. But here's the truth. The same people who hurt you are often the ones who push you toward your destiny. Without the betrayal, you wouldn't have learned loyalty. Without the lies, you wouldn't have learned truth. Without the rejection, you wouldn't have found your worth. Pain clears the path of everything false, leaving behind only what's real. Even physical pain, even sickness carries lessons. It slows you down to remind you what truly matters: health, rest, gratitude. It humbles you, reminding you that you're human. It teaches you how to listen to your body, to honor yourself, to find strength in surrender. There's a strange beauty in learning that even your weakest moments can birth your strongest self. Think of the phoenix. It burns before it rises. That's what pain does. It burns away your illusions, your fears, your limits. You lose things, people, parts of yourself, but in that loss you find your essence. Pain strips away what's temporary so that your truth can finally breathe. It forces you to meet yourself, raw, unfiltered, real. And when you do, you realize that you were never broken, you were just breaking open. There's a point in life where pain becomes your power source. It gives you perspective, it pushes you forward. You start looking at every challenge and saying, this too is building me. The tears you shed today are watering the roots of your strength for tomorrow. The rejection you face today is redirecting you toward your purpose. Every heartbreak, every failure, every lonely night, they're all part of your transformation. Because pain doesn't destroy you, it awakens the warrior within you who was sleeping under comfort. So when pain finds you, and it will, don't run from it. Let it teach you, let it grow you, let it sharpen your edges and deepen your soul. Because one day you'll look back and realize the moments that hurt the most were the same moments that built you into someone unstoppable. Pain doesn't take your power away. It hands it to you wrapped in lessons you never knew you needed. Set boundaries like royal gates, firm, graceful, and untouchable. You see, not everyone deserves access to your peace, your time, or your energy. Just like a palace doesn't open its doors for every passerby, you too must learn that not everyone should have a key to your soul. When you build those gates, you're not being rude, you're being wise. Because not everyone who enters your life comes with flowers. Some come with storms. You must understand, boundaries are not walls of arrogance, they are walls of self-respect. People often confuse the two. They'll call you distant, cold, or too full of yourself. But what they truly mean is, I can no longer control you. Think about it. The moment you start saying no to things that drain your spirit, people start saying you've changed. Yes, you have. Because peace demands transformation. Growth demands separation. I remember hearing a story about a woman who gave too much of herself to everyone. Every time someone needed help, she said yes. Every time someone needed advice, she said yes. Every time someone asked her to compromise her own needs, she said yes. But one day she broke down, exhausted, empty, and invisible. She realized she was pouring from a cup that no one cared to refill. So she started saying no. Politely, firmly, consistently. And guess what? The same people who used to love her helpful nature now called her selfish. But for the first time, she slept peacefully at night. That's what setting boundaries does. It restores your soul. It reminds you that you are not here to be everyone's emotional dumping ground. You are not a doormat for others to wipe their insecurities on. You are a whole being deserving of rest, space, and dignity. When people overstep your boundaries, they're not showing you love, they're showing you control. Imagine your life as a garden, beautiful, sacred, filled with energy and growth. If you never set a fence, people will walk through it carelessly, stepping on the flowers you've worked hard to plant. Setting boundaries is not about keeping people out. It's about protecting what you've grown. It's about ensuring that those who enter do so with care, respect, and gratitude. You teach people how to treat you by what you allow. Every time you let someone speak to you disrespectfully and stay silent, you train them to believe it's okay. Every time you say it's fine when it's not, you give them permission to repeat the same behavior. You are responsible for protecting your own energy. And no, that's not being harsh, that's being smart. Look at any queen in history. She didn't allow everyone into her court. There were rules, there was order, there was grace. A queen doesn't explain her worth, she embodies it. That's how your boundaries should feel. Regal. You must learn to close your doors with grace, not guilt. Because guilt is what manipulators use to crawl back into your space. There's power in saying, this is enough. There's courage in saying, I will not tolerate this anymore. There's freedom in walking away from anyone who tries to cross your peace line. And when they say you're being dramatic or too much, smile, because it means they were benefiting from your lack of boundaries. Think about friendships. How many times have you been there for people who disappear when it's your turn to need help? How many times have you ignored your own exhaustion to make others comfortable? Setting boundaries is your way of saying, I matter too. And in relationships, it's even more critical. Don't let love become your excuse for losing yourself. If someone truly loves you, your boundaries won't scare them. They'll respect them. Love doesn't mean endless access. Love means balance, respect, and mutual understanding. You can love deeply and still say no firmly. Even in your career, your boundaries define your growth. When you stop saying yes to everything, you start focusing on what truly matters. You stop burning out. You stop trying to please everyone, because you can't build an empire while constantly apologizing for having limits. Sometimes setting boundaries will mean losing people. But remember, the ones who leave because you choose yourself were never meant to stay. Boundaries don't chase people away. They filter out those who were never loyal to begin with. You're not meant to shrink to fit into spaces that dishonor you. You're meant to expand, to rise, to reign, with peace as your crown and self-respect as your throne. So set those boundaries like royal gates, not made of fear but of wisdom. Let them open only for those who bring kindness, and let them close for those who bring chaos. Because the moment you realize your peace is priceless, you'll never again feel guilty for protecting it. Set boundaries like royal gates, firm, majestic, and untouchable. You see, every queen protects her kingdom, not because she dislikes her people, but because she knows her worth. She knows her peace is her palace. She knows that once chaos enters, everything she's built can collapse. It's exactly how you must protect your life, with grace, with wisdom, and with courage. Your energy is your crown, your peace is your throne, and your boundaries are your royal gates. When you don't set boundaries, you hand over the keys to your peace to people who will misuse it. Think about it. How many times have you said yes when your heart was screaming no? How many times have you allowed someone to overstep because you were afraid they'd call you selfish or rude? But let me tell you something. Being kind doesn't mean being available all the time. Your kindness should never cost you your sanity. There's a difference between being loving and being a people pleaser. Imagine a garden, lush, colorful, full of life. You've watered it, you've nurtured it, you've made it bloom. But if you never build a fence around it, people will trample your flowers while passing through. That's exactly what happens when you don't set boundaries. You allow careless souls to step on your growth. Protecting your peace is not selfish, it's sacred. Because you can't give from an empty soul. You can't heal the world when you're constantly breaking yourself for it. In friendships, boundaries are love in disguise. The truth is, people often test your limits not because they hate you, but because they're used to the version of you that tolerated everything. You were always available, always forgiving, always putting others first. But the moment you say, no, not this time, they get offended. Why? Because your healing exposes their dependence on your self-destruction. But that's not your problem. Your peace doesn't need everyone's approval. In relationships, boundaries are not walls, they are filters. They separate love from control. You deserve someone who respects your no as much as your yes. Someone who doesn't see your independence as distance but as dignity. When you set boundaries in love, you're not pushing someone away, you're teaching them how to love you right. Love without boundaries becomes chaos. It drains you, it consumes you, and in the end, you lose yourself trying to keep someone else. Never confuse love with tolerance. You can love someone and still refuse to be disrespected. In your career, boundaries define your value. The moment you stop saying yes to everything, you make space for what truly matters. You don't need to prove your worth by overworking or overgiving. Success doesn't come from exhaustion, it comes from alignment. Say no to tasks that drain your soul. Say no to people who don't value your time. You are not meant to burn out trying to light up everyone else's path. And let's talk about family, because sometimes even those closest to you will cross lines. You owe love to your family, yes, but you don't owe them access to your peace when they disrespect it. You can honor people and still protect yourself from their toxicity. You can care and still keep distance. Love doesn't mean unlimited access. It means balance, respect, and emotional safety. Boundaries are not rejection. They are self-preservation. Have you ever noticed how people who take advantage of you are the first to get angry when you finally draw the line? That's because they were never around for your heart. They were around for your access. They loved the version of you that always said yes. They admired your giving nature, but they never gave back. But the day you reclaim your energy, they'll call you distant, arrogant, or cold. Let them talk. Because the truth is, people who are used to your silence will always call your boundaries attitude. Setting boundaries doesn't make you unkind, it makes you wise. You're no longer available for every drama, every negativity, every fake smile pretending to be care. You're no longer picking up calls that drain you, answering texts that trigger you, or explaining your peace to people who thrive in chaos. You're protecting your kingdom, and every queen must. Look at strong women throughout history. They were never afraid to stand alone, never afraid to close the gates on disrespect. They didn't let guilt control them. They knew their worth was not negotiable. That's the mindset you need, to stop apologizing for having standards. Because your boundaries are not about keeping people out, they're about keeping your soul safe. And remember, your boundaries will offend the wrong people, but comfort the right ones. The ones who truly value you won't be threatened by your limits. They'll respect them. They'll admire your clarity. Because people who know their worth attract people who respect it. So stop watering dead plants. Stop explaining why you need space. Stop shrinking your light to make others feel comfortable. You have the right to decide who gets to enter your energy field, because your peace is not a public park. Set boundaries like royal gates, not made of anger, but made of self-worth. Because once you learn to guard your peace like a crown jewel, you'll notice something magical. Your energy will rise, your focus will sharpen, and your soul will rest. People will treat you differently, not because you've changed, but because you've remembered who you are. Royalty in your own right. And now, my love, when the dust settles, when the noise of opinions fades, and when the ones who tried to break your spirit realize they could not, that's when you will understand the true power of your silence, your grace, and your boundaries. You were never meant to be ordinary. You were never meant to blend in. You were born to rise, higher, stronger, wiser. The world may call you many names, arrogant, distant, unbothered. But the truth is, they only label what they cannot control. Let them talk. Queens don't respond to noise, they rise above it. There comes a time when you must stop explaining your worth to people who benefit from misunderstanding it. You don't have to scream to prove you're strong. You don't have to chase to prove you're loyal. You don't have to beg to prove you're enough. Sometimes the most powerful move you can make is silence. Because silence is not weakness. It's strength under control. It's saying, I'm not coming down to your level. You'll have to rise to mine. When you start walking in your power, understand this. The same people who once doubted you will watch in disbelief as you bloom. The same voices that once tried to dim your fire will whisper your name with awe. You don't have to fight for attention. Your energy will speak for itself. Remember, the sun doesn't announce its arrival. It just rises and everything changes. Be that kind of power. There will be days when your heart feels heavy, when your strength feels small, and when the world feels loud. But even then, keep your chin high. Because the woman who walks away from disrespect walks straight into her destiny. Every time you say no to chaos, you're saying yes to peace. Every time you shut the door on drama, you're opening the door to growth. Every time you choose silence over argument, you're proving that self-control is the loudest roar of them all. Don't you ever forget, boundaries are not just protection, they are your declaration of self-worth. They say, I am not available for pain dressed as love. I am not open for chaos disguised as care. I am not a playground for anyone's immaturity. You are not made to survive, you are made to reign. You are not here to be liked by all, you are here to be respected by yourself. You are not cold for protecting your peace, you are wise. You are not arrogant for valuing your time, you are aware. You are not difficult for setting standards, you are divine. So let them call you what they want, because the truth doesn't need validation, it only needs embodiment. And when they ask you, who do you think you are? Tell them, I am the woman who learned to rise in silence, to love without losing myself, and to walk away from anything that costs my peace. That's your power, that's your story. The world may try to break you, but you were built from something they can't touch. You are fire wrapped in grace, storm disguised as calm, power veiled in patience. And when you finally learn to guard your energy like a queen guards her crown, you'll realize that peace was never out there. It was within you all along. So stand tall, speak less, move with grace, and let your boundaries remind the world that you are not easily accessible, because royalty never is. You don't have to prove your value by being everywhere. Your absence will teach lessons your presence never could. Remember, diamonds don't beg to shine, they simply do. Lions don't roar for approval, they just exist in their power. And queens don't chase validation, they rule with quiet strength. Be that, live that, embody that. Because your life becomes unstoppable the moment you realize you were never meant to fit in. You were born to stand out, rise high, and reign in peace like the royalty you've always been.